Good afternoon. We now call to order the Tuesday, August 12, 2025, 3 p.m. School Board Workshop. Please rise for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance and the National Anthem. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Be seated. Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to roll call.
Ramirez, present.
Janie, Ruddy, present.
Christy, Chong, present.
Furry, present.
LaShakia Moore.
And we will now move down to additions or changes to the agenda. Do we have any today?
Yes, please. There was an item that was added, 11.01 to the agenda, which is a job description. I do also ask that we do a time certain for 2 items. Item 10.02 first, after public comment, followed by 12.01, followed by that through your normal printed agenda. So 10.02 after public comment, followed by 12.01, and then the remainder of the printed agenda.
Okay, so what did you want to do with 11.01?
No, I was just bringing the attention as a request that any changes that were made, so that was added after we went live on Tuesday, last Tuesday.
So that will just remain on normal order?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'd like a motion to approve the agenda as modified.
Move to approve.
I have a motion by Ms. Ruddy.
Second.
Second by Ms. Chong. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, we'll move forward with today's agenda. So that brings us to public comment. Do we have anybody for public comment today? Okay, seeing none? No? Okay. So we will close public comment and move to agenda item 10.02. Life safety casualty inspection with Mr. Bostic. Welcome.
Good afternoon, school board members, Chair Furry, and Superintendent Moore. I come for you this afternoon to inform you that we have completed all of our annual life safety inspections. As you're aware, each year we partner with the City of Palm Coast Fire Department and Flagler County Emergency Services to conduct these inspections at each of our sites. all deficiencies that were notated have been corrected.
So it looks like there was quite a few at Bunnell. 60 of them.
Yeah, there were significant more at Bunnell this year than in years past, and at any of our other sites. The vast majority of those deficiencies were illuminations, or failure for the illuminations on exit signs and emergency lights. Typically, those are caught during monthly inspections of our plant services team. Due to being short-staffed and change of staff, those regularly scheduled maintenance inspections weren't completed. That's something that we understand is unacceptable, and we've addressed internally and made adjustments to our SOP moving forward to make sure it doesn't happen.
Okay, good. Any other comments or questions on this report?
So that's separate from the fact that it was summer. You're saying that it was a staffing issue when, so as part of that SOP, when some school is unmanned for those regular reviews, that you'll have another team member pick that up? If so, how is that possible to do two within the same time period?
So the inspections start in the spring, but typically, and I'll let Mr. Bush speak to how those are inspected, but we have regularly scheduled internal inspections to make sure everything's working. That way we're not waiting for an official inspection to catch any deficiencies.
And good afternoon. We generally have a maintenance person at each facility. The high schools usually have two. And unfortunately, we had the person that was at Bunnell, he injured himself and he was out for almost a year. Then the person that we pulled to put there, shortly after that, he injured himself and he was out several months. And then there was just some lax in that, and we fell short at Bunnell, not keeping up with the other schools in that school as far as the monthly inspections. But we do a monthly inspection through our master library that comes out, and those were just not being done, which we correct that internally.
Yeah. And so what's the correction? Like, my question is, if you have people out, how are we still getting this work done without putting it on another person? Is it being absorbed by the administrative staff at Bunnell? Is that something within their
No, ma'am,
purview to-
that's on us, whether we have to pull somebody from our grounds crew or from HVAC, and depending on what it is and what the need and what the person,
Okay.
what they can do within our department.
Okay.
So these reports that are done regularly, are they just logged and put in, or are they supposed to be reported up to somewhere else? Because what I'm seeing here is the reports were done, even if they were done, when there was no oversight in between whether they were done or not done, right?
So in terms of the exit signs and the emergency lights, they'll give out warnings when the battery's about to go dead or something. So when we check those each month, we say, hey, the lights aren't shining as bright. That's an indicator that, something needs addressed within that. So that's the purpose of the monthly inspections, not to wait till it fails, and it's to catch them as they're wearing down, so we can replace things as needed.
But I think Mr. Furry's point is, if the individuals at that school are supposed to do those monthly inspections, and they're not done because of certain circumstances, aren't there supposed to be a report or a paper trail that is then submitted to like another supervisor? And did that supervisor not notice that these reports were not being filled in a timely manner?
It would be the work order system, the work orders that come out, and no, they were not. That was part of.
Does it have like an alert system? Because I imagine that's part of the problem, right? Otherwise, you'd have to actively go in there and look, did it get filed?
Correct, because they get automatically assigned to the staff. And in this case, when it went through a couple different, there was a lax in who it was going to, and the supervisor needed to look at that and realize that they were sitting with the people that were out and didn't catch that they weren't being done until part of the inspection was done, and we realized that they weren't being done at that particular school.
Okay.
Is that person responsible still working, or have they been out on leave?
Both of the gentlemen that had been injured, they are currently back. One is still on limited duty, the other one is not.
I think what we're looking at here is that there should be some sort of oversight in the middle, so we're not waiting until, this is the annual inspection?
What we're doing,
Right.
yes, this is
So
correct.
essentially, over that period of time, there were 60, well, I don't know how many of those were reflective of the lights, but whatever the deficiencies were, that accumulated. So I think we need to have some procedure in there where that we have some sort of quarterly, at least oversight, or even a mid-year review of these safety items, so that they're not stacking up all over the air.
But that process is now in place. Prior to it was not.
Okay.
So these they were going into an inbox per se, into an inbox that was not being overseen by anyone above that level. But they've since addressed that once they realized what the issue was, so that we're not in this position at any of our schools again.
Okay.
Are any of these fire extinguishers, or is this, was this all internal, like lights?
No, the total numbers you're seeing are for various reasons. The issues at Benel specifically were the vast majority of those were for illuminations on either the exit signs or the emergency lights. There are at times fire extinguishers that maybe had to be updated. And then there's some that are school-related as far as managerial things, as maybe the emergency exits were blocked with furniture, or there wasn't a 12-inch clearance from shelving to ceiling tiles and things like that.
That's
So
a big one.
typically when we get these inspections, what I do is Corey and I will have a discussion, what is a school-based issue that needs to be addressed, and then I'll work with schools to make sure, hey, we got to get with this teacher about furniture and whatnot, and then Corey will get with his team with what's a plant services issue.
Do we have, do we have a company that checks the fire extinguishers, the tags, that's like implemented and they come? I just want to make sure, because those are things like that should always be checked, and they're, they punch them. I'm just wondering, is that included in this type of summary report, or is that a separate report? And do we know if, I don't know if that's like.
So part of our safety inspections, that is captured in this. I'll let Corey speak to the company that comes and
So yes, we do internally, we do monthly inspections, just like go around and make sure that it's in the green and that the tag is current. And then annually, we have a company that comes in because they have to do their checks of what the fire extinguisher. So when they reach 5 years, then there's a different test that they have to do, and turn them upside down and knock them and do things. And then that's where you get the new tag.
So the fire extinguishers are not on this report, that's a whole separate category?
No, it'd be captured in this report
Okay.
as well.
If it, say there was one that was not tagged properly, it was missed,
It would be on this.
it would end up on this
All right.
report, yes, ma'am.
Do you feel the software system that you're using to log these and be able to alert you to the regular reporting and upkeep is sufficient? Are you feeling like it's working for you, or is there a possibility that there's software that would be a little bit more sophisticated that would have maybe alerted folks that, hey, it's been 3 months since there's been an inspection report done at the school?
I feel that master library, currently, it wasn't a master library issue, it was more of a personnel issue with having a new supervisor, 2 people getting hurt, and then there was just some lacks of that happening at that particular school, because when we saw it, obviously, you're looking at the numbers, you're like, that's great, and you see Benel, you're like, what happened?
Well, that's my concern, is like
So-
the lax and paying somebody to do a job, because lights may not seem like a big deal, but it could be devastating.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
it's a
it's like, thank God,
liability.
there was no emergency
Mhm.
that happened prior, because had there been and all these deficiencies in there, then there would be a big price to pay on many levels. So we just gotta make sure that these
Absolutely.
new controls are gonna take care of this problem.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Then we have new leadership with risk and safety, so I'm sure like going forward, things are, can't go back in time, but it looks like.
All right. Thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, so we're going to move on now to 12.01, 2025 legislative platform. We have Mr. Sarah and is
John's
John
online, but
online?
he's going to
Yes, John
listen.
Sarah online as well.
We did print a copy for you in the event that you needed that.
Welcome,
Thank you.
Mr. Sarah.
So quickly, just to outline the process we're looking to implement. We're going to workshop this today. It's just a pure discussion. We've got 2 weeks then that we can work one-on-one with me or with the superintendent to make sure that items you want to have considered or changed are considered. We intend to bring a draft in 2 weeks to the workshop as a recommended draft, and if there are items that are desired by board members that aren't in the draft that's recommended, we'll have drafted motions where the language will be set up the way you want it individually, and we'll have the discussion whether the board wants to include or not include the specific item. And so I need you to work with me over the course of the next 2 weeks to get that organized so that that workshop will be productive and efficient for you. Our intention then is to adopt at that same date. And the reason that's our intention is because the joint platform that the county included us in last year for the first time, their deadlines are essentially the 1st of September if we want to be included in that. If we're not ready to adopt, then we'll miss that deadline, and that's okay. But the reason we're moving on this timeline is because we would like to be in that as ideal. It's more important that you guys, that you are 100% in line with your own platform than it is that we make that deadline, but we would like to make that deadline if possible. So I'm going to review this. These are issues that I've been aware of from my work, things that we collected from the cabinet, or items that were from last year. My suggestion to you is that while we would adopt all of the items, both the local ones and the ones that are statewide issues, the ones that would get printed as your platform would only be the local issues, and the statewide issues, we would make sure that they were submitted either by your liaison to FSBA or by me, or however, that they would get submitted appropriately on that timeline to get included in that platform. If there is a statewide priority that you want included in your local platform, that can be done, but it's my recommendation that you do that sparingly, that if it's a statewide issue, that we push it to the FSBA platform, and your lobbyists will know that this is still something that's important to you, and we will help FSBA to get these things addressed if possible. The legislature doesn't want each local board to have a dozen different priorities. They want you to have one or two. In this draft, the first thing
Before you go to the draft, I just want to make sure to just be very clear for the sake of the public, when we're saying for the board members to work with us individually, it is solely from the lens of us to be able to get your individual desires to be captured, and then any discussion will be the discussion that will be had at the table. So I just want to make sure I'm very clear, just for the public, what we will be doing is capturing anything individually a board member that we don't capture today, anything individually a board member wants us to add onto the draft, so that we can have a discussion with every board member having items represented if that is the desire of that member.
Correct. So in this draft, the Rural Renaissance proposal that the Senate President had last year has great opportunity for Flagler schools. One of the educational proposals was that there would be a grant program for the 40 districts that are members of Regional Educational Consortia, and Flagler is a member of NEFEC, and if that part of the proposal is adopted, it would be worth between $1.5 and $2.25 million for the district, and while that is a grant that you have to spend on one of about 8 different priority areas, many of those priority areas are things like improving student performance on the state accountability system test, or increasing the number of advanced courses that are completed, or career and technical education things that are completed. I would suggest to you that the items are so broad that in essence it allows you to address one or two or more of your actual priorities in a flexible manner. And so that's a huge opportunity. It's almost as good as a local project, which would only be a single year. The Rural Renaissance is intended to be recurring dollars. Now, it was also intended to be passed last year, and we thought it would be funded for at least 3. It's not clear whether, since it didn't happen last year, it will only get funded for 2 years or more, but it's still 2 years of a significant amount of funding, more than we would likely be able to get from a local project. And if we ask for a local project, we'd have to come up with half of the money out of your budget anyway. So that's one of the items that I believe is a clean win for this board and for the students and citizens and taxpayers of Flagler County, and an opportunity to bring state dollars home, so to speak. And that is certainly something that I think is a clean win. The second item that's in the draft is carry forward of an item that was in the proposal last year that was addressed partially in the new issue about co-locating schools of hope, charter schools that would be actually in one of our schools, and recognizing that pre-K within that formula, that those students are really in those seats, and that those schools aren't mostly empty when these VPK students really are there. But this is really about the funding formulas, or really the sharing formulas for sharing local tax dollars with charters, and a request that all of the students that the district serve get recognized in those formulas. It would make about a 2% difference in how much you would share from the various tax sources, that the 1.5 mils and the half penny make about a 2% difference in how much you would retain and how much you would share to recognize all of your students as counting. That's a carry forward from an item you adopted last year. And I suggest that it's something that we probably still would be a clean win if it was adopted. The third is a placeholder for a local project. And I've talked with most of you at this point individually, and I also was able to meet with the cabinet last week. And while I have a placeholder, and if you have a suggestion that you want considered, we'll certainly listen to it. But I'd almost suggest to you that we focus on the Rural Renaissance as though that were our local project, because that is of the size that it's probably more than we would ask for anyway, and we don't have to come up with the local match. And so we end up with 2 local issues plus whatever items you propose. The other items that are on here are the statewide issues. And I recommend that we adopt them, but they won't appear on your platform. We will submit them to FSBA. The first is about the way public schools are funded. And since House Bill 1 passed 2 years ago, the vouchers are actually funded slightly higher than what the district is funding. And the proposal is simply fund us the same way. So you create the formula, you run the formula, and either our students get the average funding if they're regular ed, or they get the actual funding if they're ESE, because that's what they would get if they took the voucher. It would mean about 2 or 3% more for the traditional public schools before the vouchers got an increase, which would mean if they want the vouchers to increase by 2% next year, they'd have to increase the funding for the traditional public schools by more like 5%. And there's no good explanation why a regular ed student that takes a voucher gets more money than they generate in the public schools, And the public schools even have to spend money on things that the voucher doesn't have to, like transportation and all kinds of instructional materials and all kinds of other things that the voucher doesn't even have to do. So there's no reason why the traditional public schools should get the least. So that's that item. And then item number 5 is also statewide. It also deals with the vouchers. Since House Bill 1 passed, the decision was made to fund the vouchers above the line. All that means is that the vouchers appear in what the district's total potential is, both for what the current year's budget is and what the next year's budget is proposed. And in that way, it hides what's really happening with the district's budget. And the legislature could very easily move the vouchers below the line and have a policy on what they're funding each individual district at, which would show enrollment trends and other things that are going on. There are legislators that didn't know that their districts were getting less money year over year. That's not the case for us, but there were districts that received significantly less money year over year because of declining enrollment. And this would make it transparent to the public and transparent even for the legislators that are making this policy, that they're adopting this policy and that they own it.
So
Last year, the governor supported that. The commissioner supported it, the State Board of Education supported it, the Senate supported it, and it still didn't happen. So it's not, we are still swimming up a stream, but the governor included funding the vouchers below the line in his proposed budget. So this should not be offensive to anyone, except for maybe the House, but shouldn't be offensive.
It's really just a matter of transparency.
It's a matter of transparency.
It's where it's being reported, it's the same, it's gonna work out the same.
The vouchers would still get the same exact amount of money that they get now. They just get pulled down at the bottom, and you don't have to have last year's FEFP and this year's FEFP to know what their policy is for a district and do some adding and subtracting on each in order to figure that out. It would be laid out in black and white by the legislature what their funding policy is for the districts. The item 6 is an item, it's not even really legislative, it's really administrative. ACA, the law says that the state is supposed to make school Medicaid reimbursement as easy and efficient as possible, that we are supposed to get the most money back from the federal government that we can. But ACA is still using a fee schedule that was created in 2000. It's a 25-year-old schedule. We are collecting something in the neighborhood of $130 million, and we believe we should be collecting more like $330 million. It's $200 million a year that we've been missing for the last several years. ACA's in the process of updating this for July 1 of 2026. If they do it earlier, we can start collecting the money earlier. It's about $15 million statewide that's being left on the table. And this money, the money for the health care and mental health services are already provided. The districts fund those up front and get reimbursed for what's supposed to be 55% of that cost is the federal share. So when the money comes back, it actually goes into your general fund. This is actually instructional dollars that we're spending on health care, and we should be getting the money back from the federal government to refund our instructional services. So this is an item that it recently got attention in the St. Pete Times, and some other papers picked up on it as well. And then finally, I'm sure you're all aware that in the final FEFP payment of the year, there was a proration of $47 million, and the impact to Flagler schools was about $100,000. This happened with no warning. The fourth calculation that normally comes out on the 1st of April. I'm still not aware of it having been published at this point. The state has a student reserve. Apparently they decided that this couldn't substitute for this problem, but a budget amendment could be adopted by the Legislative Budget Commission, and they could address that loss. The irony is that the wealthy districts had already received all their state funding, so they didn't get a proration. And the vouchers, their funding had already been paid out as well. So the only ones that lost were the traditional school districts and the ones that rely more on state funding than they do on local funds. Those are the items that we brought forward for the draft. And having had some conversations with members individually, I had 2 different members that talked about trying to have some kind of incentive fund for recruiting or retaining teachers. And I will be working with the cabinet and the superintendent to see if we can operationalize that into an idea, whether that becomes a local priority or something that we submit to the state platform. Some of that you have the authority to do. It's about having the money to do it with. And if the state provided a 5% increase, then you would be able to do some of those things, whether you can address any part of the salary schedule that you want through your labor relations.
We're a little bit hand-tied. There is a requirement that we cannot increase salary for using longevity without also increasing for those with performance pay. And so what happens is that means you're giving it to everybody anyway. When the first, starting teachers have had substantive salary changes over the past 5 years, right? Whereas those working in 10 years and longer have not. So that's the proposal is, for us, a school district like Flagler, where our neighboring counties are now paying more, especially if you count what our healthcare premiums cost. We're being greatly affected by not being able to have the local discretion and control to adjust for those economics within our salary schedule.
And so we'll talk about trying to operationalize this idea, and I now understand a little more about what your proposal was. So I appreciate that.
Sure.
It clicked a little bit where your rub is. I intend to bring something back in that regard, whether it comes as a statewide priority or whether it's the local priority. I'll work with the superintendent and cabinet as far as the recommendation. I'll also work with each of you individually if you will call and spend the time on your concerns. That's what we have for discussion. I don't know what the members have as far as feedback.
I have a question about the local priorities at number 1. So that 1 point, the grant, the 1.5 to 2.25 million, is it that based on the size of the district, or do you have to, you said there were different categories that could be used for. Do you have to pre-specify, or is it saying, hey, we're gonna give you this funding and you can use it on any of these items, or do you have to get it pre-approved per se on what your project is, or what you're gonna?
Okay, there was a lot in that question. So if they adopt the $25 million, NEFEC will receive about $11 million.
Okay.
But NEFEC will not keep that money, nor will they charge an administrative fee on it. What will happen is the board of directors of NEFEC will then decide how to distribute it to its members.
Okay.
Part of the money is generated based on a per district amount, and the rest of it is on a per student amount. But NEFEC could distribute it on a different manner, and our superintendent was on the committee that was negotiating how to do that distribution until the point that it wasn't going to pass anymore. That's why I can't give you an exact amount, but it will be somewhere in that range. And even at the $1.5 million range, that's more than 1% of your general revenue budget. And while it has to go to one of those 8 things, those are 8 things that you want to do, and it frees up money in your general fund in essence. But they want us to hit one of those items or more than one of those items, and hit it in a way that we can show the progress that is made so that they can then justify continuing the funding after the 2-year period. And so we want, whether we address student advancement or CTE or whatever it is that we want to address, we want to show that we've done it, and then that becomes the basis of arguing that the money should stay recurring.
But we don't have to, in advance, say
Right.
this is what it is.
Okay.
The way that it was being worked on prior to it not passing was that we would have to inform the areas that we would be addressing. And the range is there really because when we look at the size, we are the largest in NEFAC. So if we were to go by just straight per FTE, then it may be closer to the 2.25. However, if we go in amount for each district, as well as per FTE, it would go somewhere between the 1.5 and the 2.25. The idea and the purpose of it is to be able to work together as a consortium in order to do something significant for the students in that consortium, to be able to do something considerable to impact achievement in those areas.
So,
Sorry, just one more question, Ms. Ruddy. I wanted a clarification on the reoccurring, because I heard two different things that didn't quite click. I heard 2 years, I heard reoccurring. So is the idea that this would be reoccurring just for 2 years, or would this be something that would be put into effect at recurring beyond that?
So the plan last year, from the Senate's perspective, was that there would be a commitment for 3 years of funding. It would actually go into the statute that this $25 million was recurring, and in order to stop it, the legislature would typically either have to repeal that law, or they would have an implementing bill that would repeal that law for the 1 year. But all of the planning of the state by the executive branch, whether it's by the Commissioner of Education, the Department of Education, the State Board of Education, and even the governor, would be based upon the law that says that this gets funded. So that's what it means to be recurring, is that, that they intend for it to recur. I don't know whether the deal would just be that they would guarantee 2 years and then we would see after that. There really is no guarantee with recurring money. What it means when they say it's recurring is it will recur in the base budget, but they can then cut it if they want to. Non-recurring means that when the base budget is created for the following year, it automatically drops out. And if they want to refund it, they have to refund it. So it's really, it's more of a staff and administrative kind of thing. But it's going into the statute as recurring money. And the belief is that the legislature, through its budget process, would at least fund it 2 years. And then we would see what would happen after that. And that's one legislature can't bind another legislature to a budget. So this is the most you can possibly get, but it's more than a local project, which is pretty much 1 year of funding.
Mm-hmm. Just, it's just always when, as I've come to learn in the time I've been in office, is that, whenever we have dollars that are offsetting a general fund, and then we get, we start a program or we offset a cost and we get comfortable with that, the minute those become non-reoccurring, it comes back to our general fund. So we just got to be cautious with what we use that for, that it's not a ticking time bomb for later, or we may have to have a program that we're willing to pull the funding, goes away. So
That's true.
That's just, when I hear those words, and it's only for, it's nice that there's at least gives you some horizon, to at least 2 years or at least 3. So as we're coming up on it, we can start planning to say, hey, are they going to renew this for another 3 years, right? So at least that's helpful for predictions. But okay, thanks for that clarification. That was all I had.
with that rural renaissance, this is something where we have to attach our star to others, because this is a 8 county thing, right? So, or 11 counties, 11 counties. And So you have knowledge that these folks are also putting that on their local portion of their legislative agendas, and we're not in the minority of that?
It's actually 40 districts. I don't know whether all 40 will include it or not, but we are one of the larger ones of the 40. And so, most of these districts are not looking at a 1.5 to 2.25 million opportunity. I know that in some of the original proposals of the Senate, they were looking at different distribution methodologies where Flagler wouldn't have been included at all.
Right.
So I
That's
kind
my
of think
second
making sure that
non-negotiable
our
habit.
delegation knows that this is really important to you, so that they don't pass rural renaissance and don't include some of the bigger districts or
So what does the
such.
timing alignment look like on this from, because when they resurrect this, or if they do, that language could undergo substantive changes. And yet, when we submit this, if we're advocating for a program that maybe has changed to not align with our interests, what is our flexibility to move if that were to occur?
In anything you put, the things can change. I will be on the ground pushing for making sure they don't amend it that's against your interest, and making sure that our delegation and all of the leadership know what our interests are and what we believe is the right way. I know that we've already done that work with the Senate President's staff, because that's why we're in the first place. And so we would continue that on something like this that is being proposed by the top leadership, whether it was the governor or the speaker or the president. You kind of have to rely on them to some degree to advocate for their own proposal, because this is his proposal at this point. It's not ours specifically. But I know that his staff knows why this is important to us and how and what needs to happen in order to keep us a certain way. And everything in the legislative process is a negotiation on every issue all the time. This issue got lost last year between when the agreement was made to have $2.5 billion of tax cuts, and when the governor said that was DOA, dead on arrival. We went from this was going to happen to this was definitely not going to happen, and that's just.
And as a member of the board of directors for NEFAC, if this becomes a part of your platform, I will push at our meeting that's coming up next week to have this included in the NEFAC platform, but more importantly, to encourage the other members to propose it to their boards as well. As you know, this platform is a platform of the board, and so they would be making a proposal to the board that it be included like we are as well. I will add that last year, all of the consortium, they were in agreement that they did not want districts parsed out, because we're a little bit less rural than this or a little bit bigger than this group. So I can confidently say, when it comes to NEFAC especially, is that we look at this as this is for our entire consortium, and all of us are included and impacted when it relates to rural renaissance.
Okay. With regard to the VPK item, one of my concerns there is that the way that we're asking for this is money essentially which expands schools, right? Capital expansion, increasing student headcount. That's how it could be read by those maybe who are trying to have more control over that. And so I was thinking that it might be advantageous to word it in such a way that highlights that even though we're not necessarily asking for expansion of property, but including them highlights the use and wear and tear of the facilities, because VPK and adult ed, they may occur during off-season summer or evening hours, but there's still that wear and tear on the buildings. Whereas the charter schools, to your point, in the legislative platform, don't have that and are funded at the same 100%, right? But we have these extra students. So that's just my concern in the way that it's framed, in that, hey, we're asking for
Yeah.
money, which could lead to expanded numbers of schools. And I'm thinking placing the argument in a different light to increase the chances of it.
I'll talk with you again offline about this. We're not actually expanding the amount of money that's available, and the money that we're spending is the money that the school board has raised, either through your 1.5 mils or through the half penny that the citizens voted for. It's really just how many students count for sharing purposes. It doesn't expand the source. It doesn't entitle us to more state funding. It just, in the mix of how much do you have to share with the charter, we would have a slightly greater number of students that would be in our numerator and the denominator for both.
But wouldn't it be included in the capacity calculations to determine if an additional school needs to be purchased? That's the lens that I'm worried that they will block.
I think if we can go back and kind of play around with the wording on that from the lens of the actual use of the building, the use of the funding that we use, even when you speak to the half cent, because those individuals are not excluded from us. We're servicing them, but we're not getting the credit for how we go about servicing them. So we can. I have a better understanding of what your position is related to this, and we can definitely bring back some language that we see about kind of capturing that. And I know that you sent some information. We can also, if you each of you, as you're going through this, if there is particular wording that you would like for us to include in the next draft, you can also send that to us to ensure that we're capturing what it is that your thought is related to the platform.
Okay.
So we will go.
Should we then now discuss as a board what our options are for number 3? If people have proposals?
Well, that's what you were gonna, to call us individually for, is that what we were talking
No,
about?
you can definitely absolutely
do
hear,
we-
yeah.
Do we want to start and backtrack on the first one, just to keep it all bundled in case, because I had a couple things, I just didn't know if we want to keep it organized,
Yeah.
because I know we.
I just didn't know how much time we had allocated for this section, for today. I don't have no problem with that. I just wanted
No,
to
I'm
put
just
the
trying to keep it
agenda
organized so we weren't
So,
bouncing back and
we
forth.
can, if we want to talk about some more options here, we can just go ahead and so.
Yeah, I mean, it would be my proposal that, the workshop is where this is informational. So what I would like to hear is, just what are your issues with these items, and then we can dig in deeper. But then I'm really eager to hear what everybody's proposal is for this number 3 placement, because otherwise we're gonna be at the workshop and then at the heels of needing to have something approved with very little time to consider or another opportunity to have a
Okay.
discussion.
I think it's time well spent, so.
And for the workshop, are we saying for the next workshop or in the additional one that potentially being added?
No, we're
Just the-
saying for the next
Okay.
workshop,
All right.
yeah.
Okay, so, Ms. Ruddy, did you have a list there? Did you want to start?
Well, I had 2 options for number 3.
Well,
but
before we go to
again-
number 3, I think what Ms.
I
Ramirez
just-
was asking is, she wants to address number 1.
I just wanted to
Oh,
just,
go ahead.
and just really short, sweet,
Sure.
and we can workshop it more. I know, and for the public to know, this was the Rural Renaissance was what we went to Tallahassee for, like when we first got on board, and we were really positive and pumped about it, and unfortunately it didn't get passed. So it's basically, potentially we could run for this or try to get this again. And Mr. Furry, you brought up really good points because, grant money and we could invest and then it kind of can go away. But what I'm thinking, and this is what I was thinking when we went to Tallahassee, if we got this money, this grant money, one and done, whatever it may be, but we could potentially focus on, the ESE. So, we want to be an A district. ESE was something. We could potentially use that to invest in the strategies for professional learning. So it's long-term. So that would be a chunk, one and done. That's very expensive for any professional learning. Long-term, that would help with our ESE platform that Ms. Moore talks about, all of our schools talk about, get us out of that, what are we in? There's something
Federal
that,
index watch list.
we're trying to get out of this index watch, which is really not good to be in. And so I feel like it is really good, a great idea in my opinion, and then we could strategically use it knowing it's one and done, but dump it into something that could really make us an A, and then obviously help ESE, and then the strategies for the teachers to move it forward. Those that are here, you know, they like to keep continuing, you know. So I wanted to add that because that was a good point.
Yeah, and I just want to point, just because you mentioned it, I'm not opposed to the.
Oh, I know. No, I was just trying to.
I just wanted to emphasize that whatever we're using those dollars for, we have to be mindful of that, that's all.
Oh, no, for sure. But I was trying to think, like, if we were able to get this big bucket, like, we thought we were going to get it. So that's what I was thinking. Let's use it potentially for something that a big goal of ours is to be back in A. So, so yeah, that's what I wanted to, and I've heard other districts talking about the Renaissance actually a lot, so.
So what we hear right now is that for the proposal going forward is that we will keep number 1 as an option on the draft going forward. Are you guys opposed to us keeping that as an option for the draft?
My only non-negotiables were that it is not based upon decreasing populations of the community, which is what some of that bill had language about in the past, and that it has explicit information or funding able to be used for public schools. And number 3 is that whichever is the administrative body or organization, that they do not take an administrative cut or portion of that money, which my understanding is that because this is state grant, they're not allowed to unless it's included in the bill. So that's right?
I know that BFEC has no intention to take an administrative cut, and that the Senate President did not want an administrative cut
I'm
out
just
of
kinda like,
that $25 million grant.
in my life, if
That's
I haven't
going-
seen it in writing, then
It's going to the
it went
district.
south for me.
I'm confident in all
I'm
of
maybe a
those
little
issues
overcautious.
as far as it being in the proposal.
So we will keep that with some, maybe some additional information added to it.
I
Okay?
feel good about it, I think, right? Do you guys agree, right?
I don't have a problem.
All right, we're gonna bring back some language, some additional language for number 2 to talk about more so the wear and tear and the use of the resources. So we will do that. If you guys want to move to number 3, and then any additional ones that you have that are not addressed.
All right, so on this one here, who wants to start? You all have a list of things that, or ideas?
I have an
or-
I mean, did you want to go, or, I mean, I have.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I have
think
2
I'm fine.
options for consideration to just throw out there. Again, thinking about local impact, the regionalization of the career and technical programs greatly impacted the amount of funding that we've received. When we grouped, as well-intentioned as this is, and they've made some progress in those other areas, Flagler County has the highest unemployment rate between Volusia and Broward, Brevard, but we're receiving a disproportionately lower amount of those funds. And so it's impacting our ability to service our community in the career and technical education. And so the recommendation would be to change the allocation formula to essentially be both population-based and need-based. I sent some ideas. I'm not, again, I'm sure some people will come up with some other better options, as well as a little bit of a reward base where what are your outcomes? You get some money based upon that. And I know that it's the governor's wish to really expand this program. It's well-intentioned. I've seen great outcomes with some of it. It's just that a community like Flagler in our particular regionalization has been left out. So that would be one option for the board to consider. And my second was that keeping in line with the idea that what we request, we must also fund at 50%. We're also already approved an additional headcount to our staff in order to help better guide our families and students in choosing programs within Flagler schools, as well as providing education should they inquire about PEP or voucher programs. But what was really needed is for students in those transitioning grade levels, say 5th to 6th and 8th to 9th, to be able to have a dedicated conference with a representative from our school district that can put them on a career or college-ready path. And so if we've already upfront spending the money on the guidance counselors and now this additional headcount, as well as the team in the student services, we would ask for like-kind money so that we could expand that at the school level. Does that make any sense?
Staffing for counseling in transition grade levels to get a dedicated conference for setting college or career track.
Right, so that everybody, because students in 5th grade don't think that the choices that they make will matter, and parents don't know. The number of parents that I say, if I had known, I wouldn't have waited to high school. If they don't take the right math by 5th or 6th grade, they're precluded from, let's say, IB. If they are disenfranchised with the academic programs in middle grades, where that's when males start to really drop in their academic performance, and if they don't see that there are career preparation programs, then they lose that interest in school and their performance suffers. That's where you get the dropout rate. So having those counseling and tracks created in a formalized plan with a student at those particular junctures in their career, I think could ensure that every student not only graduates, but graduates with that diploma plus, whether it's that AP, IB, ACE, dual enrollment, or an industry certification, acceptance into apprenticeship, things of that nature.
Ms. Ruddy, are you suggesting, I just want to make sure I understand this, so almost like so number 3 could be our project, like that role for like across the board, in between 5th, 6th, and then prior
into high school.
So
They set a plan, then they review going into high school.
Like
and
a
they ensure
career
that the
coach
parents
and-
and the students, right, like a career coach.
because things are, so just, I know we're not workshopping now, but that is a valid point. Things are changing, and like I was at the dentist, and that dentist like, I know your school board, and these are things, I have kids that went through Flagler schools, and now they're here and there, but if we knew such and such, and here's some advice, and because I know you have children, so almost like preparing them to be prepared, so those that really want
And
it or
making,
don't
right,
know, but
making the right choices for what they want to.
so like a program, you're creating a
to have-
program
to
that
have,
is that what?
right, a program and staffing that would be able to have those conferences with students and families, which essentially is an extension of the student services counseling and the, I'm sorry, I don't
Choice.
remember. What's the name of the position that was approved? The student services, or the student choice coordinator? I don't know.
Choice specialist.
Choice specialist,
Sorry.
I'm like,
Okay.
choice
So
specialist.
we've essentially already contributed an amount of money. If we're asking, if we take all of that headcount utilization, say we would like the other half of that, and to embed these programs,
Like
that's.
a career liaison team.
I think we would have to definitely kind of dig into what the wording would be, because the meeting with students, meeting with students around college career class choices is already a part of the requirements of school counselors. And there was some language that I know that there was some new language just added to that specifically. So we'll have to dig into that a little
Right.
bit more to kind of identify what is it that we're really asking for that is outside of what the requirement already is for
Yeah.
them to do that.
The issue is that our school counselors aren't equipped to have these necessarily like long-term planning
Because of their
programs.
caseload.
And they're also, right, they're dealing with mental health, they're dealing with positive behavior interventions, IEPs, other wellness issues that a student has, and do not have the capacity. If you think about it, right, what do we have at, let's say, Rimfire Elementary School? What is there, 800 students there now?
No, 1,100 students there, and
1,100?
they, yeah.
And what do we have, 3 guidance counselors there?
2 school counselors
2
there.
school counselors. That's an impossible caseload. So they're dealing with the issues that become emergency, right? Whereas this is planning for the future. And we desperately, I feel, need to do this in order to help folks navigate these choices for their children.
Yes,
I've got
sir.
it down. What we'll need to do, because when we're talking about a local project, we're talking about asking the legislature for money one time, and we have to match with the other half of the money. And then that happens one time, and in the future years, we have to be able to sustain whatever it is on our own. So
Right.
we have to, we're gonna have to work with the cabinet and finance in order to find the right mix. But I have your idea down, and we'll discuss, and certainly I'm hoping that each of you will contact me and the superintendent about your priorities so that we can make sure that it gets considered appropriately.
One that, we talked about, and you gave me really great feedback and information, so I'm not quite sure it will work on a local level, potentially the state level, but if there is a way, and I know it's not impossible, but somehow adding statewide, increasing our student mental health and safety, the funding, because we know it's based off of the formula that was created in the 80s. We are a safe county but it's hurting us, but the increases for resource officers, they get raises just like anyone else, so we need to match that, and if we can't afford it, so then we can't pay them. And then same thing with mental health counselors, but yet we're not getting the money to us. And I know we only have the 2 that but if there is a way.
We can add another item to the statewide issues as far as this was the first year since Marjorie Stoneman Douglas that student mental health that was created that year, and Safe Schools, which was created back in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
But ever since Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, both of those items received an increase every year. And this last budget was the first time that did not happen. So we could very easily adopt a new statewide issue that both of those items need an increase that's in line with workload and inflation, and forward those to FSBA, and the superintendent can advocate for that within the superintendent's platform as appropriate, but particularly for your platform, the items would go to FSBA and advocate for that portion of it.
And
Changing the formula is a statewide issue, but there are as many, changing the formula, there's winners and losers, so it's probably not appropriate for FSBA's platform, and it's probably not something that our 2 delegation members could fix for us in isolation.
And I just want to your point, Ms. Ramirez, the sheriff was here. He did indicate that his willingness to partner and work on a proposal for how to address the formula. I know that last session that there was language that included reviewing that formula. Nothing has been done with that. So I think some of that, be it is included in your platform or not, is really just us getting together and actually working with the sheriff's office on what our proposal will be. Because we can ask them to address it, but what are we asking them to address it to that is going to be specifically beneficial to us here in Flagler County? Because to Bob's point, there are some people that they don't want it to change because they're 100% funded, and then there are people like us that say, we understand that though we live in a safe community, we still have a requirement to provide an SRD at each of our school or equivalent through the Guardian program. And, you know,
Or
the
safety
funding does not
resources
allow
that
for us to be able to
cost
do
money.
that.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I just, that was gonna be one of my statewide requests. I actually called Senator Leak and Representative Greco and dropped that in their ear. And one of them wasn't even aware that that was a factor. So I think it's just about bringing awareness to this here so that at least that, I mean, we're in the world of unfunded mandates, right? But when it comes down to this here, where other schools are getting the full funding and we're mandated the same, that at least we're getting the funding for the minimum requirements for the safe schools. And because it's not it's a matter of, you know, when you say it's a safer community, so we're gonna give you less dollars, well, you know, I'm pretty sure Parkland has pretty low crime rate, right? And so I don't know where the correlation draws in there.
Well, it needs to increase with, I mean, if you're getting a raise, you know, when, it shouldn't just be about the safety. I mean, people at yearly, or, you know, if they're gonna be.
But the
getting
current
paid
model
more,
is,
yeah.
that is what is
Yeah.
used, it
So
is used
needs to
for.
be reevaluated, I guess,
Yeah.
and again, a state level, and then we saw Senator Leak, last weekend, I brought it up, and as a question, and, it really just wasn't, I don't think they understood.
I think
what-
part of it is, though, we have to spend that money wisely, and when we're paying for SRD officers 100% of their salary when they work 180 days, that's where they're gonna come back and say, are you spending that money wisely?
180 days,
That's the school year.
they work
We
during
have
summer as well.
We now have 3 positions that we fund 100% of their salary, but they do not work the 256 odd particular
The
calendar
ones
days
that
that are
we-
available like a full-time person.
The ones that we fund work with us and they cover the entire time. The ones that we do not, they don't. And that's always when we think about it, the county is putting in 50% towards it. And so those individuals then go and work road service during that time. So I agree that there is an issue that we need to address here as a community, because if the county did not go in with us, we absolutely could not afford to meet the requirement in the way that it is outlined, and potentially not even meet it with, even with some of the other options that are available through Safe Schools, so.
So that was just something, either state, probably not local, but
And you
wanted
know,
to include that.
and we have a large legislative body, and there are a lot of issues on the table, and they're not gonna know the incremental nuances to each one. But, you know, just like you said, it's for us to advocate, the community to advocate for these things, so it comes to their attention, and then it moves up to the top of the stack, you know, and I think that's what, you know, this is a start, right? So,
Bless
all
you.
right. Okay.
Thank you all.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So, now I'll get back on track here. Okay, this is gonna be financial consent. Ms. Warmack, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Furry, board members, and Superintendent Moore. I'm here to answer any questions you have regarding finance consent items.
Okay.
Just a note, as these items represent June, there are no agenda items for financials for the charter school or the district, as those will be presented after the audit report is finalized in September.
Okay. So we'll start with 7.01, request for approval of purchase orders over 10,000. Is there any questions or comments regarding these items listed?
What is JSC Systems annual service for CareHawk Systems?
It's our intercom system, but
Good afternoon again. Yes, that is correct. That's our intercom system district-wide. And that last year was our first year using this contract, and that is a parts and labor all-inclusive contract district-wide. for a year.
Ms. Wormack, can you remind me, the 1.5 mil fund, does that fund include the contribution for safe schools and such?
No, Safe Schools comes through our general fund, through our regular FEFP.
So there was some hardening of the youth center, and
Can you
it-
tell me what page you're on, please?
Sure, let me find it again, I'm sorry. I should do that, you'd think I would learn my lesson.
I got it.
It is page number 5. DE Scorpio. So that one says it's the 296,000 is coming from the 1.5 mil, and I was wondering why that difference in this case?
Sure, so the Safe Schools allocation that we get from the state solely goes for our SRD contract.
Okay.
So it uses up the entire allocation. A few years ago, prior to Corey Bush coming on, myself and Dave Freeman and senior management, along with Corey later on, decided that we needed to put a separate allocation of 1.5 mils for safety projects. We do have a separate annual grant allocated to us for school hardening. The problem is those funds have been steadily decreasing every year. So there are a lot of safety projects that need to be done, and we don't have the funds to do it. So we allocated a few $100,000 in the 1.5 mil every year to make sure that we
Okay.
keep on track.
I mean, maybe that's a consideration then if we have to finish some of these hardening projects. Would you be able to follow up on the outstanding hardening projects that are out there that we don't have funding for then? Just so for my informational purposes?
Yeah, that would have to be.
We can get that
Mr.
to you.
Bush, but yeah, we
Dave
can
or
definitely.
Mr.
We can
Bush?
get that to them,
Yeah.
yes.
I also have a question for you, Mr. Bush. I'm sorry. I see that there are the lease payments on the modular buildings. And so there are some discrepancies in terms of, when I say discrepancy, I don't mean, there are differences between the different buildings on here on these line items and how much they're costing per year.
Mhm.
Is that because, is there like an amortization going on there? You know,
There's
the
different-
scaling amount, like is the first year the most expensive, the
Size-
second year?
Size and age, right?
Size
That
and
and
age.
some of, they're different depending on if we call them a wet portable, which means it has a bathroom in it, or dry, that doesn't mean that the style, there are different types. So there's different variances based on the particular portable.
Okay, and some of these people would not normally think are portables, right? Because they're, I think, what was it you called them, concretables?
So
Is
they're
that what it is?
concretables,
And they last
modulars.
20 years?
Yes, that's the average that the state or DOE says that they're supposed
Okay.
to.
So how can I tell the difference when we're spending money on these semi-temporary fixtures? Which ones are more of that shorter-term portable versus a longer-term concretable? Or do we use the concretable now exclusively?
No, not exclusively, it depends on the portable, the ones with the wheels underneath them, we don't usually get them any longer. But I could get that from Mobile Modular because there's different types. You know, and if it's an office, it doesn't have to be built as in a classroom would need to be because we've got to meet certain.
Different standards.
That's
I
correct,
see.
a
Okay.
code, so there's
So
different
you're
variance
using those
levels.
strategically.
Yes, ma'am,
Okay.
different levels, because obviously the office, we can get them a little less expensive than a classroom that has to be rated, fire rated, and all those different
Yeah.
things.
And none of these were new purchases, these are existing leases, that it's just the next year's installment?
That's correct.
Gotcha.
We did not purchase any new ones.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I did see at Benel all the new work being done. It says waterproofing. I'm just curious, was there leaks happening or like, what made that come about?
That is part of plant services, and we're assessing buildings and going through the entire district that we have to maintain the structure. You do have where they start wearing down from the sun, and there's joints around the windows and all, there's a lot of different issues that happen, that they do start having leaks. You can patch them, but eventually those patches also wear out. So we strategically have been working, like we did Rimfire a couple years ago, we did that facility, and then Benell, we did the concretable, because we were having a lot of issues with that one, and then we wanted to finish up Benell, and that's where we budgeted that to finish that facility. And I just want to be clear, the reason why it's waterproofing and coating is it's not just being painted. We are removing downspouts, and they're removing all the joints around the windows, and they're truly actually waterproofing that. And the coating, the mill thickness is if you were to paint that structure 3 times
Oh, yeah.
at that particular time.
I mean, it definitely was a big project, I could see.
Yes,
that.
ma'am.
And just for clarification, this has been on your 5-year
That is
capital
correct.
plan that you all will see when he presents it, when Mr. Bush presents it later on.
The canopy coverage, is that the cost after submitting insurance, or is that damage too small to submit to insurance? This is due to hurricane?
As far as, I mean, we always, whether it goes through our insurance or it's through FEMA, which some of that is, we're paying for everything up front, and then it's
Oh, really?
basically reimbursed, if you will, depending on the insurance. If they only give you so much, then FEMA will then hopefully, it's a long process. And what I mean by that, Ian, we literally just finished up with FEMA this past week to go to the state to hopefully get a check. I'm still not clear on the process, so that was in '22. So to
Okay.
let you know when I mean, but all of the damages or whatever, obviously we've had to repair, we had to fix back in '22.
Yeah. So Ms. Warmack, how do we see those insurance disbursements when they come retroactive after the payment of the damage? How does that typically show up in the financial report?
It is deposited back into the 1.5 mil.
But do we
as-
see that as an adjustment, like in the financial records?
You wouldn't be able to
Where
see
would
it
you
on the
see it?
district financials because it is like any other cash receipt we get on a daily
I see.
basis. But the coding is trackable in the 1.5 mil because we code it back to the hurricane that it belongs to. So
Oh, okay.
if I were to pull a revenue report for the 1.5 mil by code strip for the hurricanes, that all start with 9/7, you would be able to see it.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bush. All right, so we'll move on to vendor.
Oh, I just had, sorry.
Oh, you did,
Yeah,
I
had
apologize,
one
go
more.
on.
I'm okay, so
Ramirez.
I'm good with Mr. Bush, so
Okay.
he answered a lot of my questions earlier. For the Sarah Consulting Group, is that the annual fee that is it just annual for? and
That
so
is
we're-
our annual contract with Sarah Consulting, is
Yep.
paid quarterly.
Oh, they're paid quarterly?
They are paid quarterly.
Okay, so what we see here.
Is for
that-
the whole year.
That's for the whole year, okay. And I know, okay, I think I'm good. All right, yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is that all, Ms. Ramirez?
Yes, thanks.
So we'll move on to vendor payment, 7.02. Any question or comments on this agenda item? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on. 7.03, approval for deletion of inventory. Small list here. Some big items, reach All right, if there aren't any other comments, we'll move on to approval for finance budget amendments. Okay, so I believe that concludes our finance consent. Thank you.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Hunt.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay, we'll
you.
move on to academic services, 9.01, core ELA instruction material adoption. We have Mr. Reeves.
Good afternoon, Superintendent Moore. Today before you, a few items. Our first one is the ELA adoption, and this is opening up our public review process. We've got the timeline there for you to kind of see where we're at as far as this process. We did make a slight adjustment because the YMCA was here at our last meeting to make sure we gave them plenty of time. So you see the reflection of that and that shift and change for us. But we have allowed ourselves plenty of time for that to take place and work through that process. So we'll be advertising this on Facebook and our other locations so parents know they have access to that. It is available on our website, and we set up our teaching and learning office for anybody wanting to come in and physically look at the materials.
Is there a way, so when you say you're setting up to put it on Facebook, you're saying to promote parents and stuff. Is there a way to have, because I've been a parent to come and, and you have it here, correct? Like every year?
Correct.
Is there a way to have it or split it up somehow? I'm just trying to think to get more parents involved, because I know every time I've gone, I think one time I was the only parent, and maybe one time there were two, to have them at a different location, like maybe at a campus where we may get more input from parents coming to a campus. I'm just trying to brainstorm how can we
can look at that.
increase
We do
it?
offer it online as well, so they can go online, so they're not tied to a physical location. There are copyright issues that we have to deal with, and so we have to guard that piece of information, which is why we have it anchored in the teaching and learning office. But they can go online and review those information as well and provide feedback.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if they came in person, they may do it more, but.
Yeah, so they can come in here, once we get the materials for the actual campuses, when the teachers and the teachers begin to review it, we could potentially open it up for additional parent review during that time, once the materials are actually there on campus for them.
Yeah, yes, so we've gone through that process of selection. We've got our input from our teachers and staff, and we're now at the public review process for that informational part of that. And then there are a lot of public comments as well at our school board meeting on September 23rd. At that point, then we have our district committees, which encompasses parents.
So right now, the two options for families are you can come here to the district office to review, or you can review it online.
Correct.
At your leisure.
Correct.
Okay.
And we do have parents involved in our district committees that review the materials again when we make our final selection.
I think that's what Ms. Ramirez is referencing when she's been a part of the district committee to come in and review.
So maybe that is, yeah, maybe I'm just wondering, like, having it at campuses, like events like this, that the input is important and you want more feedback. If you have potentially at a campus, we may get more parents.
But when the parents are coming for that district review, you're coming in as a representation of parents for that grade level across the district.
Mm-hmm.
So we could have it at a campus, but it would just be at a campus. It would not be at the home campus for all of our parents.
But don't we have, like when we have literacy night and it's at Buddy Taylor, we have so many families come and show up because they're more familiar. I'm just thinking a more familiar location, we may get more input, like having it, how we have literacy night, and I'm just trying to think of ideas just to help
Certainly, when we
get
consider
more
other adoptions, we can consider that. And then for our district committees, just a reminder that parents are selected and picked ahead of time to be a part of that process to make sure that we have parental representation across from our campuses, plural. So they've agreed to be a part of that process for review to make sure that we're getting a good balance of input from our parents.
And maybe what we'll do is just when we start to promote this out, we just encourage or make sure that we inform families that it is available virtual. Because you don't have to come here to do it. We do have families that do come to review it, but you could do it at home and review it at home. So we will promote that and push that.
Yeah, I know you've said it's been on like social media, even though somehow I never see it. But if we could send it by email or something.
Yep. We can send it out through
Absolutely.
email. I wrote down Parent Square as well.
That's what I just wrote down, Parent Square.
Okay, so we'll move on to 9.02, Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University and Flagler Schools dual enrollment or regulation agreement.
Yes, it's up for renewal. This is our 2025 through 2028 articulation agreement that we have with Embry-Riddle University. And this is our standard agreement and information for you on that, as well as our statement of work and budget on page 10, which kind of breaks down our costs and kind of gives you how we're moving forward this. Just a reminder that last year we did step back from Matanzas High School. We were offering Homeland Security courses there, and this year, just to put that back into place, we brought in It's AS 120, which is Principles of Flight, and AS 220, which is Uncrewed Flight. So we're giving our students on the northern campus the opportunity to take these courses. And it's the first time it's being offered this year.
Any questions there? Hearing none, we'll move on to 9.03, professional learning catalog.
Thank you, sir. This is our annual requirement to bring before you, and then once it's completed, we'll send this to DOE. But we have a great relationship and partnership with NEFAC, and they provide us these services throughout the year and for a number of years. They provide us information like ASD endorsement, ESOL, reading, literacy, ClinEd, which helps our staff and our teachers, as well as special programs for early learning. They've added to this year the math matrix micro-credentialing and some new components for teaching students with disabilities. And that's what's attached for you there. But they also help us with leadership, with FELS training, school leadership networks, principal internships, and coaching cadres, as well as helping our staff renew their certifications.
Okay. Then that wraps that up. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Reeves. All right, so now we'll move on to operational services, 10.01, the 5-year plan presenter, Mr. Bush. Welcome back.
Good afternoon, Chair Furry.
Popular guy today.
Board member, Superintendent Moore. Today I'm presenting the tentative 25-26 5-year capital plan. This plan not only outlines our strategic priorities for the upcoming year, but also serves as a foundational component of the official 5-year work plan that we will submit to the Department of Education later in the year. For the 25-26 fiscal year, our proposed capital budget totals $13,180,000, and that's across 3 key areas: new construction or major projects, which you see here in front of you on the 25-26, which is a little over $8 million. Then we have our building repairs and small projects is $4,450,000. And then our service and annual contracts, and that's totals $650,000. This budget reflects continued focus on safe, efficient, and future-ready learning environments, while also addressing essential maintenance and operational needs district-wide. What questions do you all have for me?
Can you provide some clarity on the role of the principals in directing some of the 5-year capital plans relative to the needs of their school and the interests of their community members that they serve at their particular campus?
So we have, there's a couple different scenarios or options that they have. We have monthly facility meetings that at that time they meet with plant services and other operational teams that discuss the needs or wants that they may have at their facility. We also have a project request form that they can fill out on the internet, to where if there's a project that they're wanting to bring forth, that they would fill that out. That comes to my department, and then based on that, we meet with them, senior team, depending on what the needs are, and move forward, depending on what the needs or dollar amount, what that looks like.
And we have a change in leadership at a school, right? You've had outgoing leaders have a certain vision or items that they want accomplished, and then you have an incoming leader. How do you work to reconcile that? Do you sometimes, on the items that are not, I'm sure that there, and a lot of this is, hey, these are required elements that we have to keep up going for maintenance, and others may be a particular interest or program that they want to ensure has the correct space and facilities and environment. So how do you reconcile that changing vision with the incoming leadership?
So we will share whatever the vision of the previous administration would be, to say that, you know, this is some of the things that they may want, and they would either, sometimes, you know what, that's not as important to them, and they would like to see something else, and then again, it would go into, if it was something that they wanted, I would say, well, we need to fill out a project request, because then at time, date stamps, and then we would move forward doing the same thing, and then also on the project form that we have, we would, if they decided that they didn't want to do whatever may have been on there and captured in the 5-year plan in year 6 or further, then we would make notes that that was no longer needed or wanted as far as something by the school.
Okay. I know with the schools, it's impossible and it would be irresponsible actually to say, hey, everybody gets the same amount of money, because then you're gonna have certain maintenance things that cannot be finished, or like Matanzas, you would never build an extension, right? So, however, there has to be an eye for some sort of parity in terms of this spending, right?
Mhm.
Especially as our new schools aren't so new anymore.
That's correct.
How do you strategically keep track and/or consider that in this 5-year plan?
So for plant services, there's some key elements that we look at. We look at the building envelope, which we were talking about earlier, health and wellness, HVAC, and then emergencies. Oftentimes, for us, the things that we're looking at, you all don't see. People do not see them. They're behind the scenes of things, as such as, and I showed Mr. Furry, we took a tour over at FPC and showed him the chiller and all of those things, which that's a $6.5 million project over 3 years. Matanzas, we're starting that project, and that's a little over $7.5 million, again, a 3-year project. So looking at those, but there's a lot of factors that go into that. The work orders, what kind of work orders are we getting based on failures or having to fix those, the age of the facility, how is the facility holding up? So there's different factors that plant services we look at routinely to see how that works into our 5-year plan. And then when there's emergencies, the emergencies, we come to us, we get with senior cabinet if we need to, if we don't have the funds, and figure out how do we get an emergency done to handle that. Something may need to slide to the right, which meaning it may be budgeted right now for this year, and that may have to go to 26 and 27 because an emergency came up, and it may have been on the 5-year plan. We just may have had it, we had 3 or 4 years or even 6 years, and it didn't unfortunately last where we thought it would, so then it would take the place of that.
Well, and now I think there's a better tracking system, or will be starting, right, for projects where
I think,
administration would be.
So I think you're talking a little bit about what we've also learned and improved since having a conversation around what the different responsibilities are. When you heard what Mr. Bush is listing about the envelope, the ceiling, the HVAC, all of those things that people don't see, but there are those things that individuals see and look at as well. And so one of the areas, and you could talk a little bit about this, Corey, is there are some maintenance things that are the requirement of the school, and then there are some maintenance things that are, or plant service type things that are the responsibility of the district. And then how do those things intersect to identify, what is the oversight that the district has to those things that fall within the school level, if you want to talk a little bit about what we kind of learned and are implementing moving forward.
And primarily, it has to do with athletics. Typically, plant services, and part of the process, what we're learning is, although we're in charge of facilities, that would generally be on the school. So if the school, we understood that if they wanted something, needed something, when it had to do with athletics, they would come to us, whether it be in a meeting, an email, to be able to have those conversations. And what we learned is we still have a responsibility, plant services, that we still need to be looking at those and bringing that even to the school's attention to say, I'm going to use the goalposts, to say, your goalposts are not looking like they're being kept up. What are we doing? How can we make sure that we are moving forward the way Flagler intends to have the facility look? So that's one instance that we've learned through this process.
And I think going back to Ms. Ruddy's question, about the transition of administrators, and what we've done on our leadership is when there is a transition, we now have an onboarding of that administrator, that principal specifically, that includes a walking of the building, the entire facility with key people. Because what has happened in the past is there may be walks, but all the people that should be a part of the walk isn't there, and making sure that we have that as one of the initial things that are done. So up front, we can identify what the priorities are, look at the facilities, not just from the lens of the responsibility of plant services and what we are aware of, but also what are those things that the school has been responsible for keeping up with. How do those things look? What do we need? How do we need to intervene? Because there is a standard that we want to uphold as an organization, but that may not be at the level of plant services because it's not a part of their normal maintenance. And so those are some of the things that we have learned and we have adjusted since our leadership. And we did that with Mr. Bostardette. He came on and balancing out the vision of making sure that the vision of the of a principal does not preclude other areas, right? And so you may look at a principal may come in and maybe their focus is on X, and so that's what they see, that's what they lean towards, but maybe they don't see Y. Maybe they don't see, some of the arts and those programs that still cost money, and we still have to make sure we're keeping up with at the same level.
When you say athletics is on the school, where does the school get those funds? Where would that be line itemed in their particular budget?
Well, depending on what you're talking about, if it was a goalpost, for instance, they have their FF&E, which is their furniture, fixture, and equipment, depending on their allotment. And again, sometimes if they knew that, let's say 3 years ago, they knew that they wanted to replace those goalposts, I would imagine no different than what we have to do with our budget. Okay, well, it's gonna cost this much amount of money. We don't have that this year. We may, and that's a priority or something they wanna do, then I would suspect that they should save some of their FF&E until they get that money, or they would come to plant service and say, hey, we only have half, and this is what it's gonna cost. Would you be able to have, come up with the difference, and depending what our financial situation was, and then if not, we could go to senior cabinet and say, we're needing this. So there's opportunities and options. It's just communicating better, back to what Ms. Moore said, not just, well, that's on them. We don't hear anything. We need to be better engaged with, okay, we're seeing this as well. How can we make this happen?
Okay, sounds like you guys did a lot of self-reflection or retrospection for the better, so that's amazing. So specifically, we know that in the Matanzas community, their issue is the bleachers, right? It's a relatively small bleacher set that was placed there to get them up and running. And, FPC has this giant concretable stadium, which is probably not feasible, not modern how we'd want to build it. So from your perspective, and if you need time to kind of research this, have you ever been to Bartram Trails?
No.
So you maybe go online, I can send you something, but they always hold the band competitions there. That's why I'm there. I'm not running up there for the football, so you know what I mean? Not that I don't enjoy it, but that's how I became familiar. And to me, the setup of the bleachers allowed for more comfortable seating, expanded, it's rather large, to the point that they're holding these band competitions and everything for multiple districts around there. But it looked also done in a way that's modern and economical. And so I'm wondering, as Mr. Rinaldi takes the helm at Matanzas, that there's some, if there isn't already, some discussion around what is the cost, what is the feasibility, what's the style, and do some long-term planning around that. We're going to have the Potato Bowl coming up, hosted by Matanzas, and so we'll all get an up-close and personal view of how that seating is. But I do, from participating in different events, it definitely is an issue there.
And And all I was gonna say is, I've had the pleasure of being here for 20 years. So, Matanzas, when it was built, it didn't have any athletics. And it was much smaller, and again, with a lot of things, it's grown.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, with the growth that has so quickly, we haven't been able to, to build maybe the infrastructure on the athletic side. That's where the addition the $23 million addition came from, because of the growth that we have there. So, we're aware of that, and it's about, how do we fit that in with the other things. I believe the addition probably trumped having,
Absolutely, you gotta have the
athletics.
classroom and the
Correct.
academics first. Now that that's expanded,
Right.
let's kind of sit down and see, well, what is this? What does it take?
Right.
What is the cost?
And I think that is a big question when we look at what does the future of Matanzas look like. And we've had some really productive meetings with Mr. Rinaldi, Mr. Deasing, Mr. Bush, as well as their athletic director, their football coach. We've had some really productive conversations around what does the path forward look like, because what I wanted to say is that especially when you look at the two high schools that we have, we can't look at comparison in cost at all.
Yeah.
And that is not, you just cannot look at comparison and cost, right? People look at the wonderful stadium that they have at Flagler Coast High School, and they may see dollars being put into that stadium year over year, but those dollars are not to beautify it at all. It is to keep it structurally sound, right? And if we had to do it again, I'm sure Mr. Bush would say we're not doing it that way again. And so there are so many different pieces. There's been conversation about parts of their facility that just recently were redone. It's like, it is not to beautify, but when you're looking at, we got to put fresh air in it, we got to change a roof, and we now have water damage, and so now 3/4 of the wall is going to be down. Is to say, what do we do to address this and be fiscally responsible? And so I think that is the thing that we've been talking about a lot with the leadership team, is not necessarily about what does it cost in money, because we're renovating an older facility versus a newer facility, but making sure that when we look at their facility, when we're experiencing events at that facility at Matanzas, that we have the experience that is what we want to see happen here in Flagler, right? For instance, I'll give you an example. We talked about sound, and Matanzas leadership was saying that they were having an issue with their sound. Easy fix. We want to make sure you can hear. That is not something that is very difficult. Absolutely. We can make sure that happens. That represents the standard that we want to see. However, we can't give you the stadium that's there, right? Because of a lot of different reasons. And so I think we've come a very long way from the leadership team. I think some people are not necessarily happy or satisfied with some of the information that we've provided, but I've tried to be very clear with the leadership team as well as with the community of Matanzas, is that myself nor this board, we're not influenced by who is reaching out to us, but we are influenced by what is best for our kids. Right. And there are some things that were overlooked because of a breakdown in communication, that I think that if you were to speak to the leadership team, those things have been resolved once they were brought to our attention. But I think for some people, they felt it took parents emailing us to get to that place. And I know that I speak comfortably for you as a board when I say it's not because of parent, it was just because of a lack of communication to the right people, and that we are moved by what is best for our students first, not necessarily based on who's sending the email. If a teacher is sending the email, or employees sending the email versus a parent is sending the email, if it's what's best for our students, we want to make sure that we can do that and provide that. So we have come a long way. But when we look at this 5-year plan, you will often see the bulk of the dollars going into those high school facilities, right? And this is the conversation that we even have with our elementary when we go to saving of dollars. I remember being a principal and wanting to upgrade my VPK playground area.
Just having the slides for kids.
Yes. Yes, and I
It's
remember
shockingly
saying, I don't
expensive.
have the dollars, and them saying to me, well, okay, so you're gonna not be able to get it right now, let's save the dollars up. And so we did that, and the district does consistently come in and help and provide support so that we can do those things that are needed within the campus. And so we have improved, I think, our process as far as the walking of the facilities. We've changed some of our, even administratively, at our monthly meetings, making sure we have a shared document, that we've been doing that for years. We kind of went away from that, but that we can clearly go back and say, on this day we discussed this, making sure everyone understands that that's where the information goes. If there is a request, please put in a project request fund so that Mr. Bush can identify if there is dollars within the 5-year plan to be able to do that. If not, how do we prioritize what is next?
Okay, great. And with that said, if anybody's particularly passionate about football, Matanzas, or Pirates, we would love to accept a donation to help build the stadium and put that business's name right in the middle of
Welcome
it.
that with open arms.
That was a good plug.
I don't know, we may have some community
Right.
members that might be interested
You
in
don't get what
doing
you
that.
don't ask.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I think that's important to just share, is that we are playing a bit of a catch up, because when the building was, that it's not very old. 20 years ago is not a very long time ago, though sometimes it may feel like that. But when that building was open, it was started without the thought of having athletics at all. And so now you not only have athletics, but you have a robust athletic program,
they've
the
come a long
growth
way.
in the student population. And so there are a lot of pieces of their facilities that they have outgrown or are quickly outgrowing, that we have to develop a plan to address. And we acknowledge that, and we definitely will do everything that we can to ensure that they have the facilities that they need
So
for
for
the
that
future.
stadium, I mean, like, that'd be great, someone's like, hey, I'll build one. But in the real world, obviously, they're eventually gonna need it. So what is the route for that? Like, it would be discussed with leadership, plant services, this is how much it could potentially cost, and then would it be something that would go on a plan like this potentially for the future?
We've already captured it. This is 5 years. We have, I call it 6 or more, beyond 5 years, however, and that totals about $87 million for all of what we have on there. So it's captured on there, because Ms. Bozeman, before she left, she did put a project request in for that, in April, I believe it was. So there's some conversations that we need to have with Mr. Rigney when we sit down with him, Rinaldi, excuse me, about that. What does that look like, and how do we, because to add on, you're probably looking at somewhere close to $300,000 to $500,000 project, so.
And I'm just asking, because, as parents, they have questions, and our role, like, we want to try to answer what we can, what we know, what we don't know. So just, kind of to
So
give
we have it
feedback.
captured now,
Yeah.
we just have not identified the dollars to be able to do that. But we have had 2 meetings with their leadership team already. And what we don't want to do is just say, let's prioritize that one sport,
Of course,
right?
yeah.
Because there are other items as well that are also a priority. And we've already started that conversation around what facility upgrades are needed for them. We have a list of some small things that we can do quickly and that we've already started, but we are already having those conversations. Right now, it is not on the 5-year plan because we do not have dollars assigned for it, but we are working towards being able to slide it left as quickly as we can once that we identify how we can fund that.
Nice, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will move on to 11 point, Human Resource Services, and that's 11.01, Salary Matrix. Dr. O'Brien? Mr. Ovens?
Good afternoon, Board, Chair, Superintendent Moore. We are looking to make an update to the salary lanes for our school nurses and district registered nurse positions. The current salary lane for our district registered nurse is really not reflective of the required qualifications of the position, which is being a registered nurse, master's degree preferred, 3 years of experience, and also the position would be required to supervise our other school nurses across our district and kind of be the lead on policy and procedure development. So the request is to shift that salary lane from PAAB to PAL3. PAAB starts at $37,000 and PAL3 starts at $55,000. The other shift would be that it would go from a school calendar to a 12-month calendar, as we do have a need to have a nurse present in the summer. We need a nurse to verify documents during student enrollment and annual registration, and we have to bring someone in to do that part-time over the summer as it currently stands.
As well as for our summer programs.
As well as for our summer programs. We do have a need for our nurses. We've also experienced this year, we no longer are able to receive nurses that, we call them SNAP nurses, that's a nursing agency, but we received funding from the Department of Health that has dried up. And we've had those nurses supporting our schools and our summer programs for the past few years. And so as we right now have a vacancy, or we have nurses that need to call off or take leave, we're having to fill that with substitute nursing company. And so by having this district nurse, we would also have the ability to have someone to cover down and kind of lead in those cases where we have someone out.
Did you say master's preferred?
Yeah.
I don't think that's really necessary. I mean, if they're coming with the experience, you know.
That's just the qualifications in the job. And so what we're saying here is that the salary starting at 37,000 is not reflective of
No,
those
it's not.
qualifications currently on it.
So you want to change it to 55?
That would be the starting.
And also changing the school ESE nurse
That's correct.
to the PAAB lane.
Yep.
So what's the overall budget impact to this? And is this an impetus because we could not find positions here? Because on the offset, this kind of work is much less demanding, let's say, than what's in an emergency room. I would leave Ms. Chong to kind of weigh in on that, and could be, accepted by people who necessarily can't keep up with that kind of, demand, right? And we have the same issues, right, with the education staff, that we're not able to just move that over. So what is it that, is it a law that it has to be an RN? Could it be, are the other options, like an LPN?
No, I would
Our
say it
school-
needs to be an RN.
It needs
Our
to be an
school
RN.
nurses can be an LPN. We're really looking there are increasing demands on our nurses with the medical situations that they're handling for our students, and also with legislation. And so we're really looking for someone too who can provide some supervision and oversight for that position. But our school nurses are required to be an LPN or an RN.
And I would say if you look at the job descriptions, there's a documentation component that actually is at a level as far as reimbursements through Medicaid that would be of significance if they were not done correctly, as far as that is a funding source that helps self-fund part of this. In the short time that I've been down in HR, I know that it has been very challenging to fill nursing positions at the rate of pay where we have, because the market just is, we run into a similar issue with some of our other professionals in the instructional lanes. So this doesn't totally alleviate, the market pressure, but it brings it closer to being able to, hire folks that would compete with the private sector. Yeah, and you're right. If you look at the ESE school lane, as far as the nurse, it mimics the school year. So if, there's somebody that wants the holidays and to stay home with their family, there is the added benefit for that. But that still doesn't overcome some of the compensation issues we have. And as far as the district RN, the big piece on that is when we started looking at, okay, if we start filling our substitutes, when our nurses are out throughout the year without the SNAP nurses now, we're going to incur significant costs in substitute staffing companies for these nurses. And so, pay Peter or pay Paul one way or the other, we're going to have to pay for it.
So this is just this salary, because then on top of that, right, we have to do the Social Security kick in, and the, do they have retirement benefits through us? Is there,
They're a full employee.
Right. So what is the total, budget projection impact on this?
The salary cost for the shift with our current school nurses would be about $20,000 plus benefits. I don't know if you could ballpark
Per
that for
head
me.
count? Per
No,
person?
that would all in, for all of our
All in.
employees. Yeah, so it'd be
Okay.
around $2,000 in salary per employee for the school nurse shift.
Per year?
Per year, yep.
Okay.
For the district nurse position, kind of depending on where they land on the lane, that would be an increase of $20,000 in the starting. But again, as Mr. Ouellette outlined, we are paying a high hourly rate for sub nurses as it stands right now.
So I'm confused, so you're saying, so we only have one district RN nurse? Because
That's
you're
what we
saying that
would be
the
asking.
impact would be 20,000?
That's what we'd be
Yes, and that
asking
So
position.
what's, that's separate, the ESE nurses are separate?
Yes,
That's your
yeah.
standard school nurse. Or
But- And
a
that's
PI
not part of
nurse.
this request, because I saw that adjustment in the salary schedule too.
That is within the 20,000.
That's within the 20,000. Yes, that is part of the request, but yes, that's part of the request, that we shift the lane for our school and ESE nurses,
Right.
which we have
But if
about 10
if
of
the
those.
budget offset for the RN is 20,000,
So that's a total, two different 20,000s that she's
Okay.
talking
Yeah.
about.
Yes, I'm sorry.
No, we have
Two
people
different
on.
positions, and
Yeah.
yes, there is
Yes.
only one district nurse position that has never been able to be filled. We have posted for it multiple times. We've interviewed some applicants. No one has ever accepted it and they have cited the
Yeah, we've
the
had
wage.
multiple people back out at the salary.
Yeah.
I'll say I've actually heard that, just, people see it, the pay for that role. So my question is, okay, so the district nurse, that's a position that no one is working it yet, but we're trying to find someone. So you guys are trying to change the salary. We have nurses at every school that we know, an RN or an LPN. You mentioned that if someone called out, instead of using the staffing agency, which I know is very expensive for any medical clinic, this district nurse, are they a floater then as well? So I'm just trying to, is that what they are, or are they there to do administrative
That's
work?
not their primary.
'Cause
Being a
do you-
floater would not be their primary, but.
But if someone called out at Bunnell, does that mean, oh, now they have to go, oh, tomorrow someone calls out Belterre? So I'm just worried, what if they become a floater nurse? Is that which is fine, I'm just wondering, I'm confused if it's.
It's part of the job. It would be absolutely part of the job. Let's say, I were the floater nurse and I have to cover Bunnell, I would use that as an opportunity to also, I don't know, maybe audit their Medicaid documents, as well as, cover the school.
And if
so
it
that's
was-
the justification for the higher salary band, is that in addition to providing this coverage, they're
You're a
also doing
supervisor.
They
some
would
of
be
Your
this.
training, you would, yeah.
Record checks, all of those things they would be doing.
Evaluations.
And it becomes more of an issue now because we have had support through the SNAP SNAP
Yeah, I've seen it,
nurses
we've
that
had
we've had, right?
several health assistants in there with the nurses,
So,
but now that's no longer.
We do not
available.
have that funding anymore, nor could we afford at our current salary to bring those individuals on, because their pay through that grant was higher than what our salary would allow for. And so for us, we want to be able to, one, budget appropriately as well. And so this district nurse, a part of their role would also be able to, as necessary and as absences that are at nurses, at the different schools. That would allow for them to continue to do their work because they could continue to do the audit checks and things that are necessary for them to do at the sites anyways.
Is the salary based off of union?
No.
Okay.
This is
No,
the,
it's professional,
these are not in the
so
bargaining
they're not
unit.
in, these are
So
not.
they're
part of
not,
it.
okay. I'm just wondering if there's opportunity for more for that role. I mean, that's a medical profession. I don't know. I'm just, and then in floating and administrative, and how does that?
Well, we have very large schools as compared to the rest of the state. I mean, I've seen schools 600. We are at schools at 1,000. So that's a lot of ice packs, a lot of traffic flow on the low end. And then what you also said is, on our high usage, we have procedures that have to be done daily, and then we're
Students
not,
with diabetes,
We're not
students
the
with-
clinic that we recall when we went through school.
Yeah, absolutely. Like they're providing medication. I mean, we do
Injections,
have students that are on med plans, so it's definitely not equivalent to being on the floor, but we definitely like on a hospital floor, but they are just not giving out Band-Aids.
That is correct. We have a lot of students that require tube feedings, catheterizations.
No, and I'm saying more of an increase. That's what I'm
Yes,
saying.
and we are
For
seeing
this, 'cause if
more
we're not
students
getting
with medical needs.
applicants.
I think this is a start.
Okay.
I want to just kind of bring back up something that I don't think the board was necessarily interested in at the time, is this, there are many different areas where this is an issue, which is why we made the recommendation around a salary study as an organization to identify where are all of our holes and what are our paths forward, in order to make sure that we are competitive when we look around us and our different surrounding areas, for our salaries, where individuals are within these lanes. So this is a start. Could it be more? Should it be more? I think you would agree and say, yes, we would like to do that for all of our employees, but this is a start for us to be able to do that.
The position's been open for how long?
The district position,
This-
over a year.
We've pulled it from
I was
posting,
about
but
to
it's
say,
been
yeah.
open for
Yeah.
about almost
I mean,
3 years.
I don't think
On and
a
off for
study
3
needs
years,
to be
we
done
posted
for a
and dropped it,
nursing
posted
role
and
like
dropped
that.
it.
No, it doesn't for a nursing
But-
role, but when you keep digging into all of these, you'll see that it's for the nursing role, and then it's for, a director role, and it's for a coordinator position. So it's a starting place. It is a starting place.
Sorry for all the questions, I just.
No, this is the time. This is why it's for.
I just had, yeah.
I want to see the experienced ER nurse, who's going to know what to do, and to have that person, they have to be paid well. So, I hope we can do that for sure.
Listen, if we'll put it wherever you guys want it to be.
I
But
just
I'm
would
just
love-
saying
I've heard several people talk about a nursing role, a district role, and it sounded really great, but now I know why I didn't hear anything more,
Yes, this is a start.
Okay.
And if this start isn't where we need to be, we will be back.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on. 11.02. Okay. We got board approval for personnel items.
It is first week of school, so we have, and we will continue to add our personnel actions, but I am very proud of my staff, and I'm proud of the hiring managers throughout the district at all the different levels. Non-instructional, we've hired since June 48 folks. Instructional, we've hired 68 folks. We still have some more work to do. As far as classroom teachers, we have 8, and if you've seen it across the weeks, it's not the same 8. Every time we think we get close to full staff, somebody, lets us know that they've decided to move to Iowa, and they were just waiting to tell us. So I would say that overall, where we are with the hiring place is the best that it has been post-pandemic. So.
On these lists, when you say new, that's a new head count because then it's having a budget impact?
Yes.
So one of the previous discussions was that we are hiring based upon, the butts in the seats. And we're on day 2, so how did we essentially discover these numbers so quickly? Or did it come from, I think we've instituted some annual registration process where, you know, it's not just one and done, it's, you're doing it every year, so we're getting a better sense of who's going to be present.
And by the time it gets to you, this is a lagging indicator.
Right.
Okay. So for example, the coordinator of ESC has been in process. While you see the budget impact now, it has been in process at the beginning of summer.
Right,
Yeah.
we approved
Even-
that
Yeah,
separately.
what you're not
Yeah.
seeing, what you're not seeing right now is you're not seeing new second grade teacher with budget impact, okay? Because that's a function of the staffing committee. Right now, we're in the midst of getting from the warm body count, what we call, on the day one count where they actually go count heads into seats, and then right through to the 10-day count. That range in there, we have a staffing committee where we do monitor each school. And then, so we're not adding anyone in that time frame or the couple weeks before, unless, you know, there are issues like IEPs and prescribed numbers that happen in students with disability classrooms that would require us, you know, by different mandates and statutes, that go ahead and have those positions.
But that's why I'm asking the question. I do see some teacher roles that say new
For
on here.
instance,
Yeah.
at Bunnell Elementary
Right, Bunnell,
School, there's a
there's
new,
two.
yes.
And then we have some computer proctors, so, that are new. So I would be interested to know more about the addition of computer proctors at schools and what the capacity is of their role. But first, yeah, Bunnell, we've got two new that have budget impact. I'm aware of the student services, I'm aware of the ESC coordinator, and then there's a head count for Flagler with budget impact.
I see the new Flagler. I'm missing the new Bunnell.
It's on the first page, the fourth
Oh,
one
and
down.
non-instructional. I'm sorry, no.
These
No,
are self.
appointment instructional. Ruti, Michelle, Bunnell, teacher, 8/4/2025, new, $49,451.
These are self-contained teachers that were allocated based on incoming numbers at the 25-26 staffing allocation.
Typically, aren't those listed as like ASD teacher or ESC self-contained or something?
We
that
could,
they're
I
not?
just went to the position control to confirm, but it is,
Okay.
they're self-contained teachers,
But
likely
then
for our
why is it
pre-K.
listed as new? If,
For a new student.
These are new to the 25-26 staffing allocation. They were not on our 24-25 allocation. So it is a new, it is a new allocation, but it's how we started the 25-26 school year.
okay, so, I'm sorry, I'm confused. If we had students for these teachers, why are these considered new? But you're saying that these are ESC teachers, so are they additional ASD or ESC classrooms that weren't there before? But then how do we know we need them if we don't know the enrollment numbers for sure?
We do have the enrollment numbers. These are new, they're new to the 25-26 staffing allocation. They were not in place as self-contained, needing these self-contained teachers in 24-25 school year. And so they are new to that, to BES's position control.
And that's why I say it's a lagging indicator. So for example, it was allocated earlier, but until it gets, we advertise it and hire it. And so until the actual, you know, new person shows
So
up,
based on-
you don't see it.
And-
So
and-
that could be a function of where we were with our budget for it when we set the initial budget at the end of the year.
Also,
Beginning of the
think
year.
of, from this lens here of some of these students, where they may be falling, maybe students that, if they are at any of our schools that were there already last year that we did not feel for based on when they became eligible, when they came into us. And so those positions, we did not add them in the 24-25 school year, but they were added based on the students because they were here with
But
us
these are
going
not
in.
individual paras. This is, even a self-contained teacher has a self-contained class of, you know,
Yes.
smaller, but, you know, students.
Yes.
So
So
are we
at-
saying we've quadrupled the, or, you know, doubled the number of self-contained classrooms at Bunnell in 1 year. Did that migrate from another school? Because that doesn't make
Yes.
sense to me that over one school year, we would twofold have the number of self-contained. And if they were transferred from another school, why did that teacher not follow through to Bunnell to fill them?
We did transfer an allocation from another school to Bunnell for self-contained, and there was one additional one added. They did not, so Bunnell Elementary School did not previously have a self-contained setting, and they do now. In addition to that, under Bunnell is the pre-K ESE student allocations, and we have a significant increase in the number of those pre-K students, and we did add additional self-contained teachers.
And if they were at full staffing, let's say at the end of the year, and the allocation had gone from, Rimfire to Bunnell, the position goes, but it's still a new position to Bunnell. And obviously, if you look at the number of hires we've done, if I am a teacher currently at Rimfire, I'm going to want to stay there. And if we have openings, which we did, then you'll stay in one of the different openings there. And so it will become a vacancy at Bunnell.
But we've had transfers that we don't call it a new allocation. So I'm not following that kind of logic in why this is considered new to the budget impact. I mean, if this is just a me issue, I
And
will
what we
follow
can
up
do
with
is-
you, but
What
these
are we
numbers do
trying
not.
to what's the end result? What are we looking to try and
My end
understand
result
here?
is, number one, ensuring that, do we definitely have the student numbers? Number two,
Do we?
if we did have these student numbers and these were transfers essentially, what happened to those team members? Why did they not transfer with that program or students? Like why would you, if this is self-contained, why would you have a triplicate of the number of self-contained classrooms in one school year unless you've moved a program? And then if you've moved that program, why are these new hires, new staffing folks, as opposed to transferring the people from where they came?
Let's
And
grab the
so-
data from the staffing committee, because the staffing committee has all the data to identify what has been added new based on what, and what is, to make sure that what says new is new and why those things are new. And we can provide that to you guys
Super,
as a
thank
board.
you.
Yeah, we can definitely provide that. We have all of that information.
Okay.
And we don't have hardly any instances of the unit moving and the personnel moving just because we have the attrition we have. So, the folks.
But that's where I don't understand. If you have
I'm
so
certified.
Mr. Jones teaches in the 2024-5 school year. We don't allocate Mr. Jones, we allocate that teaching position. Mr. Jones leaves and then we get a replacement. That's not a new budget impact, that's a replacement. However, if you have Mr. Jones and now Mrs. Smith now for 25-26 school year comes in, that is a new allocation for which you have a budget impact. That's the way I interpret this data. If that's not correct, then that's my misunderstanding.
And I
but-
guess the only place I would go with this is the position control is by school. Okay, so I have Mr. Jones here and he's teaching ASD at Rimfire. They lose this unit, okay? It goes off of their position control. They have lost a unit. Bunnell has gained a new position. Now, in our mind, okay, this isn't really a new position, it just came from Rimfire, but it is a new position. But Mr. Jones actually went to support facilitation here, so he didn't follow that.
Then I
unit.
request an adjustment to if it is in agreement with the rest of the board, that this reporting then is not telling us what we as a board should not be focused on the microscopic elements of those transfers. What we're looking for is the health and balance sheet of the overall budget. So when I look at budget impact, what I expect to see is what is the net delta? What's the change in the overall HR budget, not from what did Bunnell increase or decrease. When I see these budget impact numbers, that to me spells we're now spending this amount more than last year. So my question is, if we don't have those students and our enrollment was down from last year, how are we balancing the two? Why am I adding now here $500,000 worth of new
So
staffing.
do you have enough information to answer these
do
questions,
that.
send us all answers?
Absolutely, we
Okay,
can
great.
definitely send that out to
Okay,
the entire
thank you.
board.
And what is teacher special assignment again? Is that, can you remind me?
Teacher and special assignment is a.
It was a
exactly
school-
that. It's
yeah,
a-
it was a- yeah, it's
It's
a-
a special assignment teacher, anywhere from a dean to a testing coordinator to, you know, any teacher above the level of classroom teacher or a sports facilitation. It's a teacher on an assignment.
They don't have a rostered classroom.
Okay.
All right, so thank you very much. Well, that completes our work for today, and that will lead us now to public comment. No public. Okay, so we'll close public comment, and well, that will lead us to board member requests. Any board member requests?
Just one quick, and I spoke to Ms. Moore about this. I had someone email, so I can't take the credit, but a wonderful idea about a meet and greet with your bus drivers, specifically potentially ESE drivers or aides to assist with bus drivers to get to know the families, the children, similar to when meet and greet with your teacher. So I know it can't happen right away, but somehow to workshop, like.
So
the
that's
back end.
not to workshop, right?
Or not
That is
workshop,
for
but
us to.
for the
Yeah,
back
yeah.
end, like the district staff to see if this could be a possibility.
So that is an idea for us for our
Yeah, so
implementation
moving forward,
operational.
Yeah,
Just
I
with-
would just appreciate on this area, this area of board member request is an area where each board member, if there's an item they want to bring back at a future date, to add to that list for a future workshop. You know, obviously, you've already expressed that with Superintendent Moore. You can also use your your closing comment to share these, this time, this specific one. We just want to focus it so that the board, the district
For
can
workshop
know
only
what.
items.
Yeah,
Got
exactly.
it.
If we don't have any,
Thank
then
you.
we don't have any, we just
Yep.
move on, yeah.
Nope,
Okay.
no requests then.
I actually do have something to just to think about. I don't know when Mr. Bars is leaving us, and I know Guardian is in the future, but I'm sure that's something we want to pull forward for, so.
We have that on the list, don't we?
Yes, we
And
do,
it's-
yes, we do have that, and it was, in transparency, we're supposed to have that conversation today, that has been shifted to September.
I wish it was sooner, but, you know, we may.
We will
miss that
prioritize.
opportunity.
Did we have there originally was some scheduling conflicts? with
Yeah,
the sheriff's
and we've
office?
been in communication with the sheriff about a date for September,
Okay.
yes.
All right, so I'll work through that there. So then that will move on to closing comments.
I do have
Oh, I'm
one
sorry.
request. I'm interested in exploring with our technology department, essentially a chatbot leveraging essentially like AI where we can preload it in order to give our community members answers to questions about student progression recommendation. So essentially, you can go on, if we loaded it with all the information about graduation requirements, those things, it would lessen the load on individuals and provide an outlet where our students and parents can get accurate information about their passing requirements, electives, progression plans, options, what do you need to do before you get into ACE program or whatever it might be, and make that student services department a little bit more scalable. And so I would like to kind of have a discovery session where we look at is that something we can manage in-house? Is that something that we would need to outsource for?
Got that.
All right,
Yep.
very good. All right, so.
And may I ask a clarifying question? For that workshop, what you would like to happen is for the board to discuss, obviously the question that you were just asking, but you as a board will identify, here are some things we would like for it to be able to do.
But also, is the board interested in spending the money it would require potentially
To
if we
create.
were to outsource a consultant in order to set
Okay.
that up for us?
All right, Now, closing comments. Ms. Ramirez, any closing comments today?
Yep, wonderful first day of school. It was really great to have the board and superintendent and district staff at every campus yesterday. So, and I did want to just say, Mr. Bush, you know, with the carpets, so I know we've spent a lot of money on carpets, and I know public do not understand, you know, they see that number, but I was at Belterre Elementary for meet and greet. It is very noticeable of how wonderful and beautiful they look. The money is going to really great products, brand new. So thank you so much. Just wanted to give Plant Services and let the community know, like, this maintenance program that they're doing, the projects are great. Also, transportation. I know we've had, you know, we're always gonna have questions. You know, one day is school down, today is number 2. So I just encourage community member or parents, any questions you have or you think may have happened or didn't happen, you know, we're here to assist and direct you, but just send an email and, you know, we can hopefully get you with the right person or ask the teacher directly. You know, just we're all on the same team and everyone's just gonna get better every day. So just communicate wisely and so we can help you and assist you. So thank you all. Have a wonderful first week.
Yeah, the energy and was palpable on the first day. I wasn't able to attend every walkthrough, but I'm planning on joining a couple additional schools later in the week as well. But Buddy Taylor and FPC, it was really great. Students, while they may not admit it, I think they were a little happy and excited about coming back. But beyond that, I do appreciate the community members as well. The service at Methodist Church was had some very appropriate messaging in terms of students take this opportunity to make your mark, take advantage, set the example of what you're going to be proud to be in 5 and 10 years. And as well with the kickoff for our staff and faculty that we had at FPC led by Ms. Moore and her administrative team. Not only did it celebrate the coming back together as our Flagler family and really revved everybody up for a new year, she strategically shared why our mission and vision matter, how we exemplify our mission and vision, and to break down those 25 points to get to the A for an attainable 2 points per team member, that it really makes it feasible, and setting that expectation of the year. So I thought it was well done and well received by everybody. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, great first day. I just want to thank staff and teachers. It's always so great to see the community come together and get everybody off on the first day. It's just such a fun event, and that's part of the fun of getting to be on the board and see all that happening. And also just a thank you to Mr. Foley and Ms. Henderson. They were working very hard yesterday, getting the messaging out. I'm just glad to see that we create our own narrative, getting our own message out there. So it was a really nice day. Thanks.
Yes, and I echo the comments of my colleagues here. It was a great day. I'm grateful for everybody on the organization and our leadership team that was out to cheer everybody on the first day, and also for this board. I will tell the public, you know, we have a very engaged board, and not only in the welcome back, and yesterday, the first day of school, we all have also busy schedules outside of our school board work, but everybody tried to make a way to get here and be part of that. And just very proud of all of our building leaders and faculty and staff. You know, every school we went to, I'm sure in their minds, everything could always be better, but from an outsider looking in, it looked like things were going smooth, right? So kudos to them on getting everybody launched for the 25-26 school year.
One more comment.
Sure, and right on.
And thank you to Bunnell police department also, because I know they don't really have to be out there, but they are, so also just, again, a community effort, everybody out there.
Yeah, and if you saw my early morning video at the bus depot, Don Foley did that as well, and he gave me a new nickname. It was One Take Will. I got that in one take. One take.
No editing there.
All right, and that's Superintendent Moore.
Welcome back to our students. Welcome back to our faculty and staff. I agree, last week was extremely exciting with our welcome back kickoff for our instructional staff. What I also love is that message that we gave to our instructional staff, we will in the next couple weeks have given it to our entire organization. And so if you're in plant services, they heard the same message. Transportation, everybody heard the same message, because we want to ensure that everyone knows we're all working towards the same goal. And it does not matter where you are within the organization, what your role is within the organization. All of it is critical for us to get to what our vision and our mission says, as well as our guiding principles, the behaviors that we exhibit. But if we want to hit those 25 points, we need everybody in the organization really moving forward with that. So just want to say welcome back. I want to say to our families, our community as well, transportation. We get lots of calls from people saying, I was late to work because traffic was backed up. And the first week, sometimes the first 2 weeks, it is going to be busy. Lots of cars, lots of our students on the road, as well as our transportation. But be patient with us. If there's something that's a safety concern or something you want us to consider, please contact us. You can go on to our website and under contact us, and it will send it to the appropriate department if there is an area that you want us to address. It was a great day one. Today was also a great day two, and I know great day three will be even better. I am so excited to just be back, and I want to just say in my last few seconds is I sent out a message to our staff around the starfish story, if you've ever heard the starfish story. But really what that spoke to me as for our guiding principles is really around commitment to individual needs. There are 13,000 plus students, but they're all individuals. And I want to ensure that we are working with them as individuals to ensure that they're all able to reach their maximum potential. It's going to be a great year here with Flagler Schools, and we look forward to seeing you guys out and about in schools and in the community.
All right. This meeting is adjourned.